Hello, everybody, and I'm back with my pod sister, Princess Gooner, PG to me. How are you, darling?
I'm good. I'm a bit hot. It is the hottest day of the year, Kev, and I'm sitting talking to you. I need to be in the sun. But
Well,
no, can't tell my cheeks are all red because I've been walking.
yeah, I know. I was out. I went out for a walk. Can you see my cheeks all red? Look, without further ado, everybody
Yes.
loved your first. Who are you? So
Yep.
we're going to get to your second. Who are you? Obviously, but what we're going to do is we're going to cut the questions down so we could go into a bit more detail.
Okay, cool.
Because I know you're good with details, and there's a few people who I wouldn't mind you mentioning because that crew around the marble halls where you used to wait opposite the stand. There's a couple of questions there that I wouldn't mind them getting involved in, so you could give them a mention. So first off, Amanda, let's touch on them Baron years from 80 to 86. Obviously, 78, 79 and 80 kind were FA Cup years. Obviously, we won 1 out of 3, didn't we? Won the Man United one, lost 2. And then it's the 80 to 86 where Terry Neal and Don Howe, obviously in combination, till 83. And then obviously Don Howe took the reins from 83 to 86. So what do you remember about those times, Amanda?
Well, didn't we lose to Valencia as well in 80? So we had like 2 cup finals in a week that we lost.
Yeah.
And I just started school in 1980. And as you know, Kev, I've always been into football. And where I went to school, everybody was Tottenham, really. I was a few Arsenal. But so for me, the years between 80 and 85 were tough because Tottenham were much better than us. In my lifetime, I'd never seen us win anything live because 79 I wasn't there. Yeah. So it was a bit tough. And, they won a cup, I think. I don't know. I think they won a couple of things, didn't they?
Who cares?
Yeah, who cares? I don't really know that. But what I was thinking was thinking back to those days because my first final I watched was Ipswich and I cried. Yeah. The second final I watched, was United and I went mental, but I was 10. Yeah. So coming into the 80s, I started to go to football a lot more, had my own season ticket and just a lot more. I remember empty stadia at Highbury. Yes. I remember putting my feet over the front seat because no one was there. The capacity might have been between 15 and 20,000. Sorry, not the capacity, but you know what I mean, crowds.
Yeah, the crowds were so down.
They were so down. It wasn't popular to go to Arsenal. It really wasn't. We weren't very good. Terry Neal, it's hard for me to remember, but I was 11, 12, 13, that age. That's what I was used to because he was my first manager in a way. Yeah. I think towards the end he lost the plot. The directors didn't know what he was doing or who he was buying. And if I remember correctly, Don Howe was his number 2.
That's right.
Don Howe then took over. And one of my favourite players ever was signed by Don Howe, which was Malcolm McDonald. Yeah. And then obviously we signed Pat Jennings and we just started to play a little bit more competitive. And we started to do that. Now, during this time, I'm a teenager. And I've always gone to football, so it's not something new to me. But I didn't know what success was. I wasn't around I was 1 in 1970, 71 or 2. Yeah. And my dad always talks about the double year, but it don't mean anything to me because I wasn't there. And, I was a stroppy teenager and I just I kept buying a season ticket, but we weren't doing
it. Was for the sake of it, just for the sake of it.
Yeah, it was more it was, I enjoyed going to football, but I didn't have an ounce of expectation. Right. So then Don Howe comes in and I can't remember the difference in times, but growing up, I knew Terry Venables' his daughter.
Right.
And I met Terry. And I'm not name dropping here, but this is when I was a teen.
Drop it.
Now, the reason I'm telling you, there's a story behind it. So when I went to Terry's house in Essex, my dad wanted to meet him. I was embarrassed because I was like, he used to take the mickey out of me, Venables, for being a junior gunner, but I was.
Yeah.
And there was a story that had come out that he was wanted by Arsenal.
That's right.
He wanted to go to Arsenal, but unfortunately our director messed that up slightly, I think.
just a tad, yeah, just a tad.
Yeah, I think so, if I remember correctly, allegedly. And then he didn't come to us. But I remember Terry took me, weirdly, this is where I met Seaman. Terry took me to a QPR game. I sat in a box with him. It was so weird sitting with a manager in a box. He never said a word for the whole 45 minutes. And I was like an Arsenal fan watching a QPR game with a QPR manager. It was so bizarre. And then at half time, he left us and went down. And then I met David Seaman. And I remember going like this.
The size of him, yeah.
He was so tall. It had nothing to do with Arsenal at the time.
Yeah.
But I haven't met Seaman through Arsenal. I met him at QPR, weirdly. So my growing up years were just done expectations. Tottenham were going to win a cup. Oh, I had to put up with all that. I remember a friend of mine driving over, so I must have been 17, with a cockerel on the roof, like a big cardboard. Honestly, it's no lie. I didn't even open the door. So, and she's still a friend of mine now. We joke about it. She used to love Glenn Hoddle and I used to love Charlie Nicholas. And I think Charlie was signed by Terry Neal. So I think it was starting. If I'm honest, I think it was starting, but the slow hand claps, Kev.
I remember that. I remember them. I remember the slow hand claps. And
honestly,
for anybody,
I used to sit there and go.
Yeah, no, it was. Look, they say every cloud has a silver lining. Well, in 1980, obviously, Chippy Liam Brady left, didn't he? And that kind of was the heart of the team because he was a homegrown lad, wonderful left foot, and he could unlock a door. But during some of those barren years, the academy started to get players coming through. The likes of Paul Davis and Tony Adams started to make their mark a little bit. And then Rocastle started coming through. Mickey Thomas started coming through. Martin Hayes got a chance. So in all of that, Don Howe started to give these boys, Chris White, Raphael Mead. Do you remember all them guys started to come through and kind of get that youth academy going?
We started to improve, definitely.
Yes.
We started to improve. And then I think Don Howe left because I think he thought he was getting the England job. And then I'm assuming, because I'm like dates, then Graham came in.
Yeah, 86.
Then Graham.
Well, we're gonna ask about Graham because the second question is your thoughts on the Terry Neal and Don Howe reign, because that combination was highly respected. We know it was. Yet things turned so sour in the end, Amanda, didn't they?
Well, didn't Don Howe introduce Adams, Rocastle and Quinn? I think Don's reign was a little bit better than Terry's reign. And also I think that I was getting older then, so I must have been 86, 17. So I was more into it. I was like, I craved success, and we didn't have any. Yeah. We didn't have any.
So what were your crew on the in front of the East Stand saying? Chris and all them guys, what they say?
I've got a story about me and Gary.
Oh, go on.
But this jumps to when George Graham at the very end of his tenure, and I'll tell you about that story.
Let's deal with that after the George Graham. Yeah.
But I don't remember, but really sorry. I can talk about Graham with Chris and Gary and everybody else that stood with us, Nick as well, my dad, my cousins. I don't remember, Kev, because I was 12, 13.
Bit too young.
Bit too young for that. And I don't even remember standing on the corner then. I just remember
going to your seat.
Yeah.
Going to your seat. Okay, then. That's fine. Let's move on to number 3 then, where you can talk, because we know you could talk. We love you talking. So what's your thoughts? What were your thoughts on George Graham being appointed as manager? Obviously come from Millwall, of all clubs. What were the Avenel Road crew? What were their thoughts?
Well, Dad was telling me he was part of the 70-71 crew. He told me he'd played for Arsenal. I knew a few things, but it's really hard, Kev, because we didn't have any expectations. We were, 9th, 10th in the league every year. So we didn't have any. So it wasn't like when Wenger came in after the George reign that we were totally
Had
different
success,
characters.
Yeah.
But there wasn't major issues. Remember, there was no social media. We only knew the people we knew around us at Highbury or outside when we chatted. I was clubbing by that time, so if I met people, we would talk about the games. We never spoke about managers the way we do now.
Yeah.
Never. No, we don't.
True. Very true. I remember when George Graham got mentioned, I knew who George Graham was, but I was thinking, from Millwall. Do you know what I mean? From Mill, I'd been down to watch Mill because I was a South London boy, so I'd been down there, used to play Sunday football around there. So Millwall used to be kind of like a second home to me, really. I thought, George Graham, wow.
Yeah, but nothing ever surprises me with Arsenal. So I was young. As those years went on, then I've got opinions on everything. But if I'm honest, I never went to my dad, oh, George Graham's going to be... I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I just said to everyone, let's wait and see. He can't be as bad as Terry Neal, and Donahow's gone. We're pretty boring. You know, we've got some good youngsters coming through, Adams, Rocastle, You know, it was starting, but we've had youngsters before and they weren't great. So
100%. Now, obviously, George Graham took the reins. And I think before he took over, Terry Venables was linked with the job before George Graham.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, he was.
So, you know, and I know a lot of fans kind of rated Terry Venables because he'd done a great job at QPR.
By the way, he never answered that question when we said, are you going to take the Arsenal job? He said to my dad, why are you? So
really?
I was like, Dad, get out. You know, it's like when you're 16, you don't want your dad embarrassing you, do you?
No.
So now if I met Terry, we would talk about it. But he was linked. But when George came in, though, I mean, everything changed.
Yes.
Everything. It became, we could do something here. Oh, this is a bit different. He was strict, you know, as we all know everything about that. And it became like, I felt like, no disrespect to Neil and Hal, but I felt like we had a proper manager.
Yeah.
I felt like, regardless of where he's come from, Millwall, never liked Millwall, never will, but, you know, a London-bred manager as such, don't know where he was born, but...
Scotland with a bit of luck.
That's what I thought. I think that he was what we needed at that time. A bit like Wenger at that time to completely change it from Rioch and Graham. But so basically, as time went on, we started to become, didn't we? We just started to build and everything. Sorry, do you want to ask me a question? Because I just, you know, I'm like...
No, listen, of course I want to ask you a question because, you know, for the likes of myself, I was 16 when he came in. But you're up in the stands, Amanda. And what he was doing on the training ground, and then you see it translate into the first team pitch, because from what we were used to seeing to what was on show during that season, it was chalk and cheese, wasn't it? You know, he first, I think I've mentioned this many times, but I always love saying it. His first meeting he had with all the players, even the youth team players like myself, he sat us all down and he said, there's one team we got to go for, and that's that team in Reading, Liverpool. They're the team we've got to get. And he says, that's on our head from this moment moving forward. He said, if there's anybody who's not into the plan, let me know and I'll get you out of the football club. And you could imagine, you could imagine everybody's like, whoa. He said, we're going to plan, we're going to work hard, but that is where we're going. And that was the die was cast by then. So anybody who was on the train, fine. If you wavered, and if you look at some of the players we got rid of, Amanda, experienced players, you know, one, obviously Kenny Sansom right now, you know, hope he gets better, a lot better. He was there. Obviously, he was part of the next question I'm going to ask, but we had some good experience. We had two England fullbacks. They got sold. Viv Anderson and Kenny Sansom.
But that's my point, Kev. He came in and he was like a proper manager.
Yeah.
He just did what he wanted to do. He knew he had a plan, and you could see that plan unfolding as time went on. So I love George Graham. I just love him.
And also, Amanda, the thing I want to touch on, which I think is really important for us, for anybody watching who can comment as well, that's great. But George Graham went out and bought Nigel Winterburn. Well, he bought Perry Groves, Nigel Winterburn, Lee Dixon, and Steve Bold. Now, Nigel Winterburn from Wimbledon, Dicko and Chief Steve Bold from Stoke, and got away with it. Remember, we're Arsenal. He got away with it. Perry Groves from Colchester. And look at the service those players gave to Arsenal Football Club. It's amazing.
And also, so there's your back four right there with Adams coming through the youth. So he knew. This is what I loved. He had a plan.
Yes.
Never felt Terry Neal and Don Howe had a plan. He is a big planner. He went after Liverpool, and then what happened in '87?
Yeah, well, obviously we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that, Amanda, because, look, these are the years that it's kind of transformation, isn't it? It was the transformation of Arsenal from 80 to 86 were barren years. And if some of the fans had seen what was going on, the slow hand claps and, empty stadiums virtually and stuff like that, they wouldn't believe it. And then
Can you imagine being able to put your feet over the row in front and then put your bag next to you and, you had that room.
You could sprawl out yourself. Yeah, it was crazy.
And like you'd look around the stadium and you'd like, well, there's not many people here tonight. But it was normal. It wasn't, like that.
Yeah, it was poor. And then you get to 86, like we're talking about, George Graham coming, and then you start to see everything change. You start to win more. You start to get those consistency in performances. And then all of a sudden we start going on a cup run, don't we?
Oh, yeah. Now, the only thing I'm gutted about winning that cup was that I wasn't at school, because I had 5 years from 80 to 85 of bloody nothing. We went on a cup run. And do you know what was really exciting was in those days, to go through a cup run, you had no problems getting tickets for anything.
That's right.
Ever. And when we got to the final, really weirdly, I was talking to my dad about this. I don't know how we got these tickets, and he still doesn't know to this day. I was on the stairs where you lot walk up.
Yeah.
I was the first seat halfway up. I had the best view ever. And when every player came up, were next to me.
Yeah.
So when I'll jump back after this.
Yeah, I know you're a jumper.
Oh, I'm a jumper. When Charlie Nicholas walked up, I gave him my hat and scarf. So every paper you see of that day,
it's your hat and scarf.
My hat and scarf. And I was like, well, how old was I then? I was 18, nearly.
Yeah.
And he was my hero. I loved him. I fancied him. I was like, oh, just like a schoolgirl crush on him. And also then he goes to score the winner. But the final for me, Kev, I cannot remember anything. I can't remember the lead up, going. I remember scoring and then them lot coming up. And I'm going, oh, my God, we've won a trophy. Oh,
wow.
This is amazing. Because in those days, like 89 at Anfield, no one beat Liverpool. They never lost when Ian Rush scored. So we broke that record as well. And I'm not being funny. When you're Arsenal, you feel like you're a little club. But when you look at Liverpool, this global, it was like...
they were the dominant team, weren't they? They dominated English football and European football.
Absolutely. We were the underdogs. I love being an underdog anyway. Always love it. You can't lose if you're an underdog. But I just loved, I remember just little snippets. It's a long time ago for me and you. I remember little snippets of being with my dad, and he reminded me that he was taken a bit ill during the match and he had to go outside. I don't remember any of that. Right. But I remember Charlie Nicholas coming out, and I watched my scarf and hat go with him up there, and then I watched it on the pitch, and I bought the paper the next day. I was like, that's my hat and scarf.
My hat and scarf.
Thank you. But it was the first cup for me, because although I'd watched the United in 79, I wasn't there. And this was just I loved it. I don't remember what I did that night. I don't remember anything.
Amanda, can we jump then? Can we jump
Yes.
back to the North London Derby trilogy? Because I believe this was the making of George Graham.
Oh, I've got a story about that.
That semi-final,
Yeah.
the three games, because it was a trilogy. You know, it was home and away first. At Highbury, they beat us, didn't they? And hold on a minute. Let me know your experiences of the three games, because I don't know if you went to all three games or.
No,
whatever.
I didn't. No, I only went to two, weirdly, but not the last one. And I'll tell you the story in a minute. So, first one at Highbury, did we lose?
1-0.
I thought
Nicole Classen. Was it Nicole Classen or Clive Allen? One of the two.
Okay. So, right, you know me and scores and stuff. I thought we drew.
No,
that would, yeah, that makes more sense now that we lost. Right, so I was at Highbury. Definitely would have been there. I don't remember it. I'm not going to lie. I do not remember it. Whenever I used to go, not used to, I still do. Whenever there was a Tottenham match coming up, I used to plutz for about a week. Oh, plutz means like stress to everybody that don't know. Yeah. I used to be like, but on the big divide of excited and stressed. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, couldn't wait, but oh my God.
But dreaded it. Couldn't wait, but dreaded it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the word. That's it, right. So I think leading up to that game, I felt sick because not only is it Tottenham, it's a bloody cup game, and that's even worse because they could go on to bloody win the cup. Yeah. And in those days, we didn't do anything, did we? So no. I had, again, no expectations. So when we lose, I actually remember it now. I was thinking of another game. For some reason, I've ended up at Tottenham on an away game in Arsenal's end with my cousin. So I spoke to my dad about it this week and I said, how comes you weren't there? He said, you had my ticket. I had to go to a wedding. Right. He said, I watched it. I told everyone I'm going to be late, but I had to go to the wedding. So you had the ticket with my cousin. Right. And honestly, Kev, this is one of my earliest memories of football. Going mental. I'd always gone to Tottenham away, early 80s. My dad knew someone and we got tickets, but we always sat in the Tottenham. You know, they used to have like their East Stand and they used to have a couple of rows just for guests, of the other team, because it was safe to do it. We was always there, like players' wives, I think, like things like that.
Complimentary tickets,
I don't know if they were complimentary, but we were always there.
They're comp tickets.
And I always looked at Arsenal in the Arsenal end, and I always wanted to sit with them because it looked so much fun. I didn't want to be here because we just got a bit of abuse. Anyway, so I was in the Arsenal end. I think this was the first time. And we went mental, and it was the first time I'd properly experienced atmosphere like it. Yeah. And me and my cousin's only a few years older than me, so we went a bit mad. And then at half time, no word of a lie, this is not an urban myth, they announced that, because they were 1-0 up, I think, weren't they?
They were, hold on a minute.
Was it 1-0?
They were, I think they were.
Was it 0-0?
No, I think they were 1-0 up. And then we scored 2, didn't we?
Right, fine. So I'll get me dates and times right. So basically what happened, I'm sitting there listening to the tannoy, and all of a sudden I'm listening to the Tottenham tannoy, and he goes, the bloke who over the tannoy goes, something like this. He goes, for your information, Tottenham fans, we need to get your vouchers for the ticket for Wembley. I looked at my cousin and I went, that's a bit cocky, isn't it? We're only 2-0 down overall, or 1-0, whatever it was, right? My cousin went, what are you talking about? So I said, did you just not hear that? And he went, no, like this, like sort of. And then I started to go, did anyone else hear that? And a bloke in front went, yeah, bloody cocky, innit? Went, do you know what? I hope they've heard that in the dressing room.
Yeah, they were 2-1 up. They were 2-1 up. Yeah, you're right. They were leading 2-1 at that time. Yeah.
So I was like, that's the bloody cheek.
Flash.
How dare they?
Flash.
I was like cocky. I understand he had to do it. There's no social media in those days or anything to announce stuff, is there? No. And I would have hated it if Arsenal would have done that because we definitely would have lost. But basically what happened was I said to my cousin, I hope they play that in the bloody dressing room. I hope our players hear it. And the rest is history. Noel Quinn. And I mean, I've gone mental in my time, yeah? When I say mental, proper mental, I'd say 6, 7, 8 times, yeah? We've got, obviously, Anfield 89. We've got when Noel Quinn did this, right?
Yeah.
And then when Thierry Henry came back after not playing for us for 3 months, that was proper mental. And a few other times. But what I'm saying is, we all in that Tottenham end, Kev.
Because it was the whole end, wasn't it? It was the whole end behind the goal.
Yeah, because what then it did was take us to a replay.
Well, if you remember, there was a coin toss after the game.
Now, we didn't know until we got out. And I was praying, because I knew my dad would take the ticket, right? We couldn't get and I was praying it was at Highbury, because I had a season ticket. And when it was at Tottenham, I was like, I'm not going. And I had a whole strop on about it. I was like, I want the ticket. And my cousin had his ticket. But me and my cousin didn't go. My dad went, and he stood, or did he sit in the East Stand? I think he sat in the East Stand because he didn't want to stand in those days. He stood in 71 at Tottenham. Right. Oh my God, he's going to kill me, Kev. Stood in 71, but he sat in the East Stand when Rocastle and Allinson. And I wasn't there, but obviously watched and went mental at home.
Twice.
Because now I know I'm going to Wembley. It wasn't like nowadays. I would get a ticket. Yeah. I was a season ticket holder. We were first. Yeah. There was no bond holders and all that nonsense. Yeah. We were priority. So I was the most excitable teenager, honestly, ever. And it's really weird, in those days, I didn't know one Scouser. Now I've got loads of Scouse mates, and I'd have loved it. Oh, my life. I'd have met up with all of them before and after and had a great time. But that was my first live final.
Yeah, but I don't want to even get to the final yet. What I want to get to is, because I know you can't wait to move on to that. Charlie Nicholas gets injured. Tottenham take the lead 1-0 yet again. That's us. We've never been ahead in the tie. Yeah. Charlie Nicholas gets injured and has to go off, and Ian Allinson comes on. Yeah. What's your thoughts on that? Because you just didn't know. You thought most of our chances are gone when Charlie went off.
Yeah. I weren't happy. I'm not going to sit here and go, I knew he was going to score. Yeah. You can't compare Ian Allinson to Charlie Nicholas.
No.
Champagne Charlie, he was my hero, as I said, and I loved him. I was, Kev, you've played in derbies. It's different for a fan, right?
Big time.
We experience a different emotion. We're fearful, right? You lot have got to go out and score and win the game. It's a different feeling. Well, I'm imagining so, because you've been both, haven't you?
I haven't. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you have to focus like there's no tomorrow. And focusing's hard because it's your derby. And not only that, your rival's your derby. And you've got to live in North London the next day.
Exactly.
And they are better than us during the early 80s. So it was all hinging.
That's why everything hinged on that trilogy.
Oh, didn't it just? And it turned us exactly like United in 99 with their treble. Honestly, it's a turn of if Charlie wouldn't have gone off injured, we may not have won the game.
Very true. Very true. But again, Charlie goes off, Ian Allinson comes on, and he gets that ball, and he scores out of the blue, doesn't he? Incredible. And then there's that moment. For Rocky. Oh my God. I was at the game. I was at the game.
So where were you?
I was sat in them complimentary seats because.
So maybe you might have been near my dad. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, the players who weren't in the squad but not stripped, the likes of myself, Gus, and all those guys, we sat in them complimentary seats.
Was it safe for you?
Yeah, obviously there's stick flying around, but of course it's safe.
Right.
Yeah, it was safe. But
go on.
But obviously after the game, obviously it was going mental. But obviously there's the stewards and stuff. We went down to the pitch.
Oh, right. Lucky.
We went down to the pitch and, we could celebrate. Well, I was only 17. I was buzzing.
I was
buzzing. Yeah, I was buzzing. But, that moment when it kind of went in a bit of slow motion as well. With the way it went in, because it kind of went under Clements here, didn't it?
Yeah.
And stuff, that touch in the box.
And in those days, Clements was such a great goalkeeper, wasn't he? That you just didn't expect that. And Rocky, bless him. Oh my God, he's I honestly can't, because it's Tottenham as well. It wasn't
Yes.
just a semi-final against Wigan or something, was it?
No.
It makes it so special. But the turning point
Big
was
time.
then we go up and they come
They've
down.
come down, yeah.
And football life is cycles. And
Definitely.
that's when our cycle began.
So, all right, Amanda, we can jump now. 1987, first cup final.
Yeah.
Versus the mighty Liverpool. What was your experience? You say you can't remember stuff, but stuff's coming back to you.
Yeah, it is coming back. I remember the build-up going, well, I don't really care. We're not going to win. I'm just going to enjoy the day.
Yeah.
No one expected us to win. It's a bit like Anfield, really, although Anfield I did not enjoy like this. Oh, God. Because the build-up to Anfield, I was much older. So, well, not a couple of years, but I was, oh, my God, for Anfield. Just very, very like, oh, I'm going to Wembley. I've never been to Wembley. What shall I wear? Yeah. Remember, I'm 18. It's very different.
Style conscious. I was like,
oh, yeah, I'm going to wear... Well, we were in red and white, weren't we? So I was dressed in red and white, and we had, when we drive anywhere on a final, even at the age of 50, I do this. We have our scarf out the car. We live in Essex, so we get on the North Circular to Wembley, and we pick up all the cars as we go along. Yeah, Wembley's easy for us.
Yeah.
And we just have the best time. And my dad, as you know, is a stickler for time and parking, so I don't have to worry about anything. We just hoot all the cars. You didn't see many Liverpool cars because they came down by coaches and trains. Yeah. And we just had a great time. Just loved it. Winning it was the bonus. I mean, I didn't expect to win it. And also my hero, Charlie Nicholas, you know, at that time, it was hot. As well.
It was a roasting day, yes.
Sweltering. See, I am remembering things now. And I just remember, and I think I was a bit nervous coming out because I'd never been in a massive crowd like this.
Yeah.
A football match because...
It was 100,000 then, wasn't it? It was 100,000 at Wembley then, yeah.
I don't even know if I'd been to many away games by then. So I wasn't used to, I didn't know how Liverpool were going to react. Also in the 80s, there was trouble everywhere you went, whatever ground you were at. So I was like, oh, I was a bit nervous. But coming out, we were just all singing. And those days, we all just walked down Wembley Way. There wasn't another way to get out. And oh, Kev, it was amazing. I don't remember where I was working. But wherever I worked, everyone knew I was Arsenal, whatever job I've ever had. So I probably, and it would have been a Saturday, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It definitely wasn't a Sunday.
No, it was a Saturday,
so, yeah. And I don't remember what I did on the Sunday. I could lie and make up this grand thing, but I don't remember.
No, you don't need to. You don't need to. Look, Ian Rush scored for Liverpool, a well-worked goal. I mean, you look at that Liverpool team. Liverpool were loaded, weren't they? They were loaded. They had they were so good. They were so good.
You know, I say football porn. They were football porn. I mean, you can't deny that during the 80s.
No, listen, I will never say Liverpool Football Club haven't been a standard bearer in this country, especially then, where they dominated not only domestically but European. I'm sure they won the World Club Championship as well. You know, they were the most feared team in the world at that time. They were, and you know they were awesome. And anytime Rushy scored, they never lost.
Yeah, I know.
So him getting the first goal was like, oh no.
It's even more now, isn't it? It's like, oh well, we didn't expect to win. We're definitely not going to win now. To break that rate. But do you know what? Do you not think through our life, Kev, it's so Arsenal to do the unthinkable and then lose to the unthinkable.
Yes.
It's so Arsenal that, isn't it? Like, you know, we do such amazing things and then we do such diabolical things.
But have you noticed, Amanda, here's the really important thing. When we're classed as an underdog, kind of, or it's quite close, we do well.
Yeah.
When we're classed as really the favourite,
it's tough for us.
We don't do so well because, you know, there's so much more onus on you as the favourite that sometimes it's hard to handle because the opposition have got nothing to lose.
No, nothing. And the thing is, and we had nothing to lose.
Yes,
you know,
we had everything to gain.
we had everything to gain. It was George's second season or first season? Second season, wasn't it? First or second? I don't
First,
know.
86, 87 was his first.
Right, so it's his first season, a little bit like Wenger with us, wasn't it? And, you know, and we'd never tasted success. Like, well, my lifetime.
Our era. Yeah, not like that.
That's
not
it.
like
Yeah.
that. Not like that. No. Where we can
No.
actually go and soak it up.
And enjoy it and understand what was going on. And, you know, to have me with my dad would have loved having me there as, you know, his daughter, but he's obsessed with Arsenal, isn't he? So it's like, it must have been amazing for him, even though he didn't feel so good during the final, but for us, and then to break Rush's record, the best team in the country, and Charlie Nicholas it just dribbled in, and then we lift the cup. I didn't even know what it was like to celebrate lifting a cup live. I didn't even want to leave. I remember that, actually. Now, but it was, for our era, Kev, the beginning.
Yes, it was.
The beginning of everything. So I find it really weird when 25 and 30-year-olds dismiss Graham and talk about Wenger only.
Well,
and I get
what they probably don't get, Amanda, is you can't build anything without a foundation.
No.
And George Graham set that foundation so strong that back 4, 5, or 6, or whatever many players that came through the ranks that Wenger inherited, Chuck Ray Parler in there as well, and some of the guys, you know, Wright, he came on board, were the mainstay of his teams at the beginning. That's why he could do the double at the start.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
This is really important.
He inherited the back 4.
5.
5, yeah.
The back 5, he inherited that. You know, first season he wins the double. That's an amazing feat. That is really an amazing feat, you know.
It is.
But without that foundation,
yep,
he couldn't do it. So George Graham, you know, some of the guys who watch this who don't think much of Graham, I'll tell you, he's so underrated. I don't like that he's so underrated, Amanda.
Nor do I.
He's done so much for the football club.
But Kev, me and you are the same age. That's why we don't like it. And I think anyone our age or older would feel like that. But youngsters, they go, George Graham, yeah. But Wenger. And I'm like, yeah, but we wouldn't have had this bloody success if you would not have had Adams, Bowl, Dixon, Winter. You know, you just wouldn't have had it.
Yeah.
And the work ethic, you know, what he instilled in Adams and...
well, the leader, the organisation, you know, the way they played as a unit. You didn't need Arsene Wenger didn't need to teach them anything.
No.
They knew how to do it.
Yeah, of course they didn't need teaching anything, and I don't think he did he? But then he did bring in Vieira, Petit, and the list is endless of Perez and Overmars, and we've seen amazing. We know Bergkamp was Rioch and David Dean era, but you know, when you look back to what I've experienced from 1987, yes, we can skip off 88 because
no,
talk about
go back to 80. What you experienced from 80 onwards.
God.
Imagine that decade.
Barren.
Decade. Look how barren it was at the start. And you get to the middle and then you start to get, it starts going up exponentially. Whoa. It's amazing.
Oh, I like that word, exponentially.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing transformation. It is.
Well, it's the beginning of the decade can't even replicate the end of the decade. It's completely different with different managers, different teams, different cups. But as I said, with the up comes the down of Luton in 88.
Yes.
But, you know, it was really interesting. I was listening to a podcast the other day of someone talking about this. And it's right, actually. It probably helped us in 89 that we were so poor in that final.
Yeah.
Because no one was cocky during that year. We were all very down. You don't lose to Luton. But only Arsenal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Luton.
Just like anything, Amanda, the team have to learn how to win, but the team also have to learn how to be favourites. They have to learn it.
Yeah, that's true. Comes with confidence.
Comes with the confidence. You have to keep going through these things. So to get beat actually is going to make if you've got a team, it's going to make the team steel themselves and say, that's not going to happen again. And as you see from that after losing to Luton, there's only one real big game that club lost, which was to Spurs, and which we got back.
Oh God, yeah. I can't talk about that.
Yeah, that's another one. That's part 3.
But George Graham, Kev, must have instilled confidence in you all, where Terry, Neil and Don Howe, I think, were a bit softer. And I just don't think they respected. You had to respect George, otherwise you were literally disciplined.
Yes.
And I love that. I love that about him. And also he was an Arsenal man. You know, he was there in the 70s, won the double with us. So we had that affinity to him. And I think at the very early stages of his career with us, probably going into maybe mid stages, towards the end, it wasn't great. But sometimes managers have their time, don't they? And then
that was definitely his time. Definitely his time. Amanda, we're out of questions, my dear. Part 2's finished already.
So quick.
It's about 40 minutes. It's gone like that. Wow.
I know. It does when we talk.
Listen, I love the jumping. I love all the jumping and the.
Yeah, sorry about that, everyone.
No, I can't remember, but I remember. I love that as well.
I'm me in it. No, definitely not. Oh yeah, I can remember.
Yeah, I can remember. No, that's brilliant. Listen, thanks for giving up some of your time on this day, darling. I know it's sunny outside. Get outside and get some rays on you. And
I will.
Hopefully you'll come back for part 3 of Hawaii.
Part 3. Does anyone want me for part 3, Kev?
Yes, we want you back. We want you back, darling.
Want you back. Yeah, thanks, Kev. These are great, and all your shows are brilliant. I've loved all of them when you're interviewing Who Are You, because you know we're all just fans. You're an ex-player, you know, and I've always loved interviewing you anyway. But I know that there's many more stories you can tell us on the Highbury squad.
Yeah,
I just know.
Listen, there's a few. There's a few.
But no, thanks so much for asking me.
No problem. Love to the family. Take care, darling.
Thank you. Yeah, take care. Keep well, everyone. Bye.
Bye.